It's Thursday, July 25th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, illustrating life in the world around us. Our conversation will be about talking of the influences from illustrators and cartoonists, how they're influenced, and the impact that their work brings to folks. So what's that saying that some folks say is actually a curse? May you live in interesting times. Well, we certainly are, right? From a pandemic to the ever-present and increasing dangers from climate change to conflicts around the globe, the political fever pitch south of the border, there's a ton going on. And some of the folks who try to make sense of it capture the essence of all of this. It's illustrators. It's political cartoonists. So that's where we are with today's discussion. I've got a couple folks here in studio and one person on the line for it. And my question to you, is there an illustration or a political cartoon that's really spoken to you over the years? It could be the last couple of years. It could be older. Get in touch with us. Text us 709-327-8206 or email us thesignal@cbc.ca. Here in studio, I've got Snowden Walters, illustrator, Down Home Magazine. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for coming in. And Kevin Tobin, editorial cartoonist, caricaturist, and illustrator of children's books. Thanks for coming in as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And with the Telegram.
And with the Telegram, yes, of course.
40 years.
40 years with the Telegram.
Yes. So.
And that's not a day or two. That's a bit of time.
Yes. Yep.
Congrats on the career with that one.
Thank you.
And, so like I said, we got Snowden Walters here. We've got Kevin Tobin here. And also on the line, Michael D. Adder, internationally renowned editorial cartoonist. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show today. Michael, we'll start with you on, and it's the question I'll do for the like everyone here. The importance of political cartoons. What's their role in this world that we live in?
Well, their main role is to take the air out of the hot air coming from politicians. It's to take people that are in the public or in power, and we try to deflate them a bit or to make them more realistic. We also try to influence policy or influence what's going on in the world or illustrate what's wrong with the world, in our opinion.
I'll put it to the guys here in studio. What do we want to add on this?
Well, it's the gut punch. I agree with Michael. It's, you take everything and boil it down to one image or one series of images that cuts through all the smoke and the fog and gets to the one point you're trying to get across. Sometimes it works, and those are good days.
Yes. And I would add that when I started out, speaking for myself, that I did more political cartoons, so following politics. But I find over the years a lot of my cartoons are Michael is right about deflating the politicians, but sometimes I just get tired of drawing politicians. So it's other, I try to bring real people in, the people, having coffee at Tim Hortons or Starbucks or something. So it's a lot of observational humor, there's a lot of, I focus on, or try to focus on what's in my backyard. So Newfoundland, Labrador issues. And how it affects how we're affected by national issues, international issues, and whatever, but also by, the housing crisis, food crisis, like all these other things that are, you could say they're political, but not politicians as such,
And life, right? Life impact stuff, the stuff that we're all feeling, and for everyone, like here's an example. Kevin from. The latest one that I'm looking on your Instagram page. If you could explain this one for Michael, who might or might not know about it, everyone in the province will know. So I'm looking at a drawing of, so it's the Elite Navigator, yes, and it's got 777.
Yes.
That's fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Tell everyone about it.
Well, it's some cartoons kind of create themselves, like when I was thinking about the idea and working on the idea, it was in the news that was the name that the media named him, right? The Lucky Seven.
Yeah.
There was seven of them on the fishing crew that was on the Elite Navigator, and it was almost 3 days they were lost at sea. And I'm sure Michael would know because, he's a big news junkie and everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of like Lucky Seven, and that was my punchline. So I said, okay, well, I can't really add to that. What could I do with the visual? And I thought about the windows off the boat, the ship, and it's actually the scrolls on the, off the Lucky Seven slot machine.
Yeah.
So you kind of wonder, maybe sometimes is that, tasteful, tasteless, or whatever. But as the gut punches, it's simple. Brings the issue to really simple. I'm not trying to solve it. I'm just trying to comment on it. And thanks.
Yeah, well, it's I think for me, right, as a consumer over the years of, and I will say, now, Michael, I don't know about yours, but for two of the guys here, I think I've hand delivered their work, because when I was a kid, I delivered the Newfoundland Herald for a bit, which Snowden's work is in, and I delivered what back when it used to be called the Evening Telegram.
Yes, the Evening Telegram.
I was a hand deliverer of your work to folks, and which is actually I find really neat.
Yes.
I want to go. Yeah, go ahead.
I've had, for the record, I've had quite a few in the Telegram. Not lately because I quit my syndicate, but I think about 5 years ago, I think I had quite a few per year in the Telegram. Just making that point. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
And Michael, you're still in there. Like I wouldn't say once a week, but nearly once a week.
Yeah, and that probably comes directly from Saltwire. So so I guess I am in there. Yeah, once a week is pretty good.
Well, there's only 5 papers, right? So you're in 1/5.
I want to go to we're talking. I mean, I've kind of dipped back into history, talking about like the Evening Telegram and stuff. But let's I'd like for each of you to share how you got into illustrating and editorial cartooning. Michael, when did you start, and how did that kind of ramp up?
Well, I went to Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick, and I was studying fine arts. I wanted to be a painter, though, not an editorial cartoonist. The school newspaper, a guy that ran the art department at the school newspaper, was looking for people to draw cartoons. And he kept coming into the classroom asking people, and I refused about 3 or 4 times. I said, I just don't have time to do it. And on the 4th or 5th time, I didn't say no. I just started thinking about it, and that was enough. I was in. And I started drawing this sophomoric cartoon strip called Otterman, which kind of had a cult following. And at that time, and I'm dating myself, John Turner was running against Brian Mulroney, and that's how long ago, on 80s. A free trades. They were arguing over free trades. So I started drawing more political work, and I had a cartoon that went viral. Viral in those days meant you'd see it pinned up on a bulletin board. There was no internet. And
the OG viral.
And I don't know, it just led to cartooning being on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Snowden, what about yourself?
Well, myself, I'm going to date myself back further than Michael now.
Holy jeez.
My very first editorial cartoon in Newfoundland was in the now defunct Daily News. It was one where it had 2 fellows out in a rowboat, and the guy in the front is reading the paper, and he's laughing and saying, look, they're calling it acid fog. And the guy in the back was starting to melt. Right?
Wow.
In the fog, and that was in 1979. But earlier than that, the story I'm told from my childhood is my mother would ask me what I did today, and rather than tell her, I would draw it. Oh, so it's something I've always done. Yeah. Right? I just draw.
Yeah.
I can't not do it.
Right.
And tell folks some of the other. So that was the start. And what have you done over the years?
The first cartoon strip I had was in the Aurora in Labrador West, and it was as an advertisement for the Book Barn and Record Loft, which sold books and records. And the owner wanted something different, so I came up with a cartoon strip called Treason, and it was animated trees and rocks and stones and mushrooms and that. Basically, it was just comments. And that ran for a couple of years in a weekly paper. I did, over the years then, different ideas. I've got one strip, Sculp and Tickle, that's all about growing up in Labrador West. That's never been published except on the internet. And then early, I guess it was, the 80s or the early 90s, I was living in Ottawa, and I went and visited my cousin in Scarborough, and they had a copy of the Down Home magazine. Well, it was a newspaper at the time. And so I got the address and wrote asking were they wanting a cartoon strip, and heard nothing for months. Back in those days, you wrote letters and waited. And then one day I got a phone call from Ron Young, wanted me to come up with a cartoon strip about Clarence the Christmas Caribou, this young caribou that had wandered into Buckens. And that led to 8 years as an 8-panel cartoon strip, and another probably 7 years of 4-panel strips in the Down Home. And then it switched over to illustrating more for them. They wanted me to do the Salty, so I did that for several years. And now they send me anecdotes, and I do illustrations for that. And in between, I've done a lot of commercial and commission job work, that sort of thing. So
Okay.
it just flows.
Kevin, what about yourself?
Yeah, so with me, I started with Robinson Blackmore. That used to be a chain of community newspapers. Again, no longer around. And I started working with them in 1977. And I was a layout artist, so laying out the newspapers, the several community newspapers, so locally. But anyway, the two editors, which I will mention, the late, great Ron Ennis and Byrne Bromley, who's St. Anthony, and they were managing editors and editors of the Grand Falls Advertiser. They had a cartoonist, editorial cartoon, I think it was called Our Town. I could be wrong on that, but it was this guy was drawing these cartoons for 40 years, 50 years. So they kind of kept encouraging me, maybe you should think of that. So I did some cartoons in 1977, Ed Roberts, the local mayor. But, I really didn't have, I could draw, but I couldn't think. I wasn't mature enough. I was 18 years old, and I'd rather be down Kerry's on a Thursday evening than draw cartoons. But anyway, as I kind of got older, and so around 27, I'm 65 now. So at 27, I started. The actual Telegram was the Evening Telegram then, and it was owned by the Herder family, and Steve Herder was still like the managing editor. So I met with him, and I brought my cartoons, and he said, yeah, they're drawn pretty good, but there's no real idea there, and he sent me off. And so I thought my career in editorial cartoons at 27 was over.
Yeah, you're like, I'm done.
I'm done.
Yeah.
That's it. What's he talking about? Look at the cartoons that were in the Telegram at the time, the Evening Telegram. But anyway, but the mature me went home, and I said, no, that's a challenge. Take what he said. So I started developing the idea more, then the illustration, because I kind of worked the other way, and which was the wrong way for me. And I went back to him. He said, "Wow!" And I've been in there ever since. And he's, up there with Joey, and kind of looking at what we're doing all down here. And my cartoons, are still in the Telegram. So I started with the ability to draw, and then hopefully over the years the ability to think it came, right.
How many times have you drawn Joey Smallwood's face?
Joey Smallwood, I drew him a few times when he was, after he was premier.
Yeah.
but he still shows up in my cartoons still.
I know. Well, like,
Yeah,
and
it's
from like when I was, so I've seen it from when I was a kid onward, right?
yeah.
It's something that, like, when I think of your work, this is one of the things that comes to mind.
Yeah, I even did T-shirts. I know Michael has drawn a few Joey illustrations, I'm sure.
Oh,
yeah. But
I've done Joey Smallwood at least 10 times.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
if not more.
And so I'm going to do a little exclusive here now, which is I'm working on my last book. I have to do 10 books of editorial cartoons. But this is the last one, so it's on all 40 years.
Yeah.
And I've met with Breakwater, and we haven't decided on the title, but everything's a go. And as I'm going down through my cartoons, there's Joey again. I don't want to say it's going to be a section on him, but yeah, he's still, in our culture, I guess, So,
Fascinating.
yeah.
So it's interesting, like the discussion that we're having. We've already mentioned some newspapers that don't exist anymore, things that have changed. This world that we live in, yes, I mean, there's the internet. We can put images online. Like, Michael, I'm looking at your latest one, from your site, right, from your blog. It's a Donald Trump. It says, "Cartoon for the Chronicle Herald. The tables have turned." It's got a kid on a bike with a helmet looking at Donald Trump saying, "Wow, mister, you're really old," and above it says "the tables have turned," which is great.
Yes.
And so, fitting for just where we are right now. Before I talk to you about your individual work, Michael, and I'll go around to all of us here, what do you think about where we are right now with political editorial cartooning, the shrinking of media, but also the ability to spread so much information because of the internet? Michael, what are your thoughts?
Well, if newspapers weren't in the bad state that they're in, we'd probably be going through a golden age of cartooning, or at least a silver age, because you can put something on the internet and it can go around the world 3 or 4 times. I have cartoons that go viral every time there's a shooting in the U.S., or I have cartoons that go viral every time the NRA are mentioned. We have the ability for these drawings to just endlessly be alive, or they keep coming up. The problem is getting paid for them. We're going through a real glut in the ability for cartoonists to get paid for their work, and that's really what's at the heart of the problems we're having. That's why there's fewer cartoonists now than there have been in the past 50 years. I used to go to the U.S. conventions, and there would be 300 people attending these conventions. 250 would be cartoonists. And now when you go, I think the last convention had something, it was well under 50. And the one before that just had over 50. We're losing people, but the ability to spread your images around has never been stronger. It's a real, it's a real pickle we're in when it comes to this profession.
Yeah, it's such a weird, like this contradiction around things too, right?
Yes.
So, Kevin Stone, what about you guys? What do you think?
It's the sheer volume, I think, now of what's available on the internet that oftentimes an image just gets lost in the noise, really. And that may be why the younger cartoonists and that are not as interested in following the traditional line of cartooning, let's say. And maybe their creative forces are being focused elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. Kevin?
Yeah, no, I agree with both. My cartoons reach, like, with the numbers, with people, the readership of the Telegram, of all newspapers over the years have, just look at the ads in the newspapers, and, things are, that's the bad news, I guess, in our business. But the good news is, my cartoons have reached a lot more people, and because of social media in general, all the great platforms or whatever, and to get to Michael's point, which is, like you mentioned, his Trump cartoon. He does a fantastic job on Trump and national and international issues. So that's why, if you stay more in your own backyard, that kind of has a reach as well from the social media and that, right? So we just got to, you got to keep plugging away. I play a bit of hockey, and I'm always saying, just dig in, go in the corners, and maybe you'll come up with the puck, and maybe that's a good Canadian hockey analogy there.
Yeah.
But and that's the way I look at it. I like I do 3 editorial cartoons a week. The Telegram has 5, or they put 5. It's 5 days, and I just I just trust my gut and throw in any commentary, funny or not. And I don't know how long the ride is going to be, but yeah, I guess that's all we can do is just keep commenting on it and plug away, right?
So what is feedback like then? What's it been like over the years, or what is it like now? So you put something out into the world, right? And I know a little bit about this. I do a show every day,
Yes.
and then I get feedback on it. And sometimes it's really nice, and other times not so nice, depending on what goes on. What's it like for you folks?
Mine ranges from, friends or readers, or getting emails from people who've seen it that just say, really liked, this particular one. They found it hilarious. And it runs the whole range too. Like, I don't know where you're going with that. Or
Yeah.
Are you sure that anyone's going to understand what you're trying to say there? And you're left with self-doubt. But luckily, by then, your self-doubt has already been published. So
Yeah, the doubt is out into the world, and you've already got another one done.
And generally, feedback is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael, I'll let you speak on this because I do follow you, and I have read a lot of positive comments you get on your editorial cartoons, but a lot of negative comments.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I like both.
Yeah. But but it's almost like a I don't want to use the word battle, but it's like a lot of people have kind of lost their sense of humor a bit over the years.
Well, it's not a battle because I ignore them, but but with that said, I don't always ignore them. A cartoon these days can go viral on the internet in 3 ways. They can go viral because people love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. They can go viral because they absolutely hate it. Or they can go uber viral where half the people love it, half the people hate it. And it's actually entertaining to watch. And it's good to have them go viral in each one of those ways.
Yeah, but you got to have a thick skin, really, hey, because it gets personal. I've been fortunate, but like I say, I'm reading yours or Theo Medakis or a lot of the comments, but see, the difference was, 10 years ago, you would get a letter to the editor, and you only get one. Very rare would they comment on cartoons, but they would, and it's mostly negative.
Yeah.
But now they can just comment right under your cartoon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they do.
There it is, and they do. And it's usually if they've taken the time to comment, it's usually, I can't say usually, but a lot of times it is negative, where it becomes personal, like. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. I always say that my cartoon was my comment, okay, in this society, in this democracy, in this. So I have the freedom to do that. So therefore, you have the freedom to comment on it, but I don't comment back. Like that's your gift.
Yeah, you're like, I've already commented.
Yes,
I'm done.
So so if someone says well, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I won't even respond, not because I don't want to kick up a shitstorm or whatever, but it's just that's your right, and I just let it go. But you will get it right off the bat. You might have just posted it, and 5 seconds later, someone has read it, and
hates it,
and hates it already. Yeah,
the comments are bipolar. They either really hate it or they really love it.
Yeah.
So you get brilliant. If you draw a really good cartoon, you get brilliant about 2,500 times under the cartoon.
Yeah.
But you also get you got to be the dumbest person on the earth 25 times too.
Yes.
So if you're going to read the comics, you're going to get brilliant, stupid,
yeah,
stupid, brilliant, stupid. Under every cartoon.
Yes.
Michael, from Trump to the NRA, gun control, like what attracts you to covering and doing editorial cartoons around things that are happening south of the border and around these big controversial issues?
It's time for lunch. Remember to wash your hands.
It's what I think people are going to be talking about the next day or in the next hour or whatever people are obsessed with is the topic I want to draw, whether in Canada or the US or in the world. So that's how I decide what I'm going to do. What is the one thing that everybody's talking about right now? And then I do it. And, with Trump being shot in the ear and the Democrats going through what they're going through, it's been endless. The things people are talking about the water cooler are like 5 or 6 things right now. So it's in a way it's never been easier, but in a way it's never been harder because me with my ADHD, I'm spinning in circles trying to figure out what I'm going to draw.
Right.
Tell us. I'm looking back. So for the Trump, the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and shot in the ear. Can you tell us about the political cartoon you did? I'm looking at it right now. Can you tell folks about it?
I drew Trump fist in the air like the fight. I didn't have him saying fight because I like to use few words as needed. And behind him in the crowd, the Statue of Liberty got shot. And that's a pretty good example of brilliant, stupid.
Yeah, I was wondering that because I was like, I could see that one getting a comment.
Yeah, that
or
didn't
two.
get reprinted too many times. In Canada, it got reprinted all over the place, but it didn't.
That was in the Telegram.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The people of St. John's have good taste. They all
Always
Now,
have.
I will say something. If I drew like a joke about Donald Trump and it had something to do with cod tongues in it or something like that, it would just go viral in Newfoundland.
That's true.
I find it fun to take something local. Like I did Trump and the Supreme Court, and I associated with curling, which, in the U.S. it's kind of like a ho-hum association, but in Canada it went crazy.
Yes.
Everybody thought it was great.
You are listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. For today's Thursday show, we are talking about illustrating life in the world around us. The conversation's focusing on influences for illustrators and editorial cartoonists, the impact of their work. And we're asking you, as you're listening to this, is there an illustration or political cartoon that has really spoken to you? Text us, 709-327-8206. Email thesignal@cbc.ca. My guests, Snowden Walters, illustrator for Down Home Magazine, Kevin Tobin, editorial cartoonist, caricaturist, and illustrator of children's books. Also, Kevin's been an editorial cartoonist with the Telegram for 40 years now. And Michael D. Adder, internationally renowned editorial cartoonist, is on the line. And I'm just looking, we've had a couple emails come in, and I was just sent one talking about political cartoons, right? So there's one I was just sent. It's the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, and there was controversy over receiving gifts, right? So it shows Clarence Thomas with his judge robes, and he lifts them under them. There's a lot of gifts. So this is like an example of political cartoons that have spoken to people. There's one for me that actually stands out from a few years ago, and it's Bruce McKinnon's illustration showing the pain over the Ottawa shooting in 2014, right? And I think it won a national award, but it's just one of those ones that when I saw it afterwards, I know a lot of other people, it was just because they had the war memorial in Ottawa, and the soldiers were stepping down to lift up.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes,
it was just one that I don't think I'll forget. And guys, for the question I have for you, to be editorial cartoonists, how you really got to know what's going on in the world, right? You got to be paying attention. So, like over the years, what has your media diet been, or how do you just, or just your observation of the world around you? Snowden, we'll start with you.
Well, that's what it is. It's cartooning, I think, is a reflection or an interpretation of a reflection of the world that's personal. And so you go with what's kind of bothering me or what's affecting me. And, you say, well, what will I draw today? It's not really that difficult sometimes to come up with it because it's like, well, what's bothering me? And personally, I always try to look for a gag in it, a punchline, like the gut punch, and that's pretty much it.
I kind of like what, again, what Michael was saying about how what's on the go today, what's around the water cooler. The difference is, I will say, what's on the go in Newfoundland and Labrador today. Yeah. Because Michael and Bruce and several cartoonists does a fantastic job with Trump. I'm going to say I'm anti-Trump. Yeah. So in other words, Trump is out there enough. He's in all the magazines. He's on TV. He's on the radio. But what about the gentleman down on Water Street? What about the woman? With no home. So anyway, so when I think of a cartoon, I think of, okay, what's on the go here? And then that's the local thing. The other thing is, without thinking the punchline yet, I play around with, the idea and then, figure out what I'm going to say. And I do like the less is more with the text, but I find I have a tendency to add more because... I don't know, because I'm under deadline and I can't cut all the words and whatever. So you look at my cartoons, you'll say, they're a bit wordy. And I know it, and I'm not trying to be wordy, but I just find that's what happens sometimes. And but I do take pride in the ability to draw, the craft of art. When I'm drawing somebody, I never label them. So if I was to draw Fury, Premier Fury, or if I was to draw, John Crosby. Now, I know John Crosby is an iconic look and everybody knows him. But I pride myself that you got to be able to look at the person in the cartoon when you're looking at the newspaper or when it's online, and you know who it is. Yeah. And I think that there's humor in that. There's wit in that. How you make them, how you draw them, with their imperfections and their, the tie undone and all these little things. And the other thing, too, and anyone who's seen my cartoons over the last 40 years know I'm a big fan of the flies. And yes, yeah. And that's it all started with politics and the BS with politics and, what flies follow. But it's kind of evolved over the years to more the fly on the wall. And I've had people comment and say, well, that wasn't, you mustn't have thought much of that cartoon. I only saw 4 flies. It's almost like the level of nastiness, there's got to be more flies. So that's just me. And sometimes I do it, I don't even pay attention. It's like when I'm doing the drawing and then I look at it, holy crap, look at the flies I got drawn there. But anyway, that's the way I look at it. So it's just do my own backyard and have fun and know that, if this one don't win any awards, I'm doing another cartoon tomorrow. I'll have another stab at it, and we'll see where it goes.
Just got a couple notes in. Here's one. I'll read just the last line of the email from a listener of the show. Pam says, I think the loss of a public space for editorial cartoons is incredibly unfortunate. I found them to be a vital aspect of the public dialogue, particularly in any country that calls itself a democracy, right? So if you look at the shrinking of newspapers and everything else, even though we've talked about, yes, the internet's there, but just of what's happening in the North American, in particular, media environment. Another note from Scott, who's a listener, saying he loves criticism on top of humor when it comes to political cartoons, and which Michael, I think, speaks a lot to your work. And I'm just back to the question of your media diet. How do you, because you got to know what's going on in the world to write about it, whether it's Canadian grocery stores and the cost of living, or like we said, Donald Trump or anything else. So what are your inputs like for inspiration?
Well, I have a subscription to the New Yorker, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, the Chronicle Herald,
Wow.
Saltwire, which gives me all the papers, I should say.
Yeah.
So I start the morning off reading papers, but I always have the TV on. It's kind of my news wire. It's always in the background. I'm not always paying attention, but I either have CNN, sometimes Fox News because I want to slum it. Sometimes MSNBC. I find MSNBC and Fox News to be too polarized to one end. Or CBC News, or sometimes CTV News. I always have something on the background because breaking news you have to throw away your cartoon sometimes if the breaking news is too big. I basically am always plugged into the news. I'm always reading Twitter. I'm always on my phone. I've always got the news in the background. Sometimes radio too, and I just never unplug. That's how I come up with these ideas. Unless I'm on vacation.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you ever just be like, hold on now, I just need to take a week and just completely not be in this?
Yeah, if I have a day off, I have to turn off the news to actually enjoy my day.
Yeah.
So yes, I shouldn't say I'm always plugged in. When I'm working, I'm always plugged in. I'm basically plugged into the news from Monday morning to Friday at 5, and then I shut it off. And oftentimes someone will say, like when Trump got shot. I was with a bunch of reporters when Trump got shot. We were in the middle of Nova Scotia, nobody paying attention to the news, and all of a sudden we got emails from someone. Trump got shot 2 hours ago, and I was like, what? And I thought you were with a bunch of reporters. Like, what kind of reporters are you that you guys don't even know Trump got shot? Well, we're off the meter. We're trying to enjoy life. Of course, we all broke up and went home to watch Trump getting shot. The news, but it was really funny that I was at a thing with reporters and none of us knew Trump got shot for 2 hours.
So then, 2 hours late, you learn about it. What's the turnaround time then for? Because you get the news and then the image that you drew. Whether you look, I think there's an AP shot. Like there's the pictures that went around plus the video. What's the turnaround time then like for you for this type of work?
Well, sometimes I don't. Usually, geez, I'm not even getting it out. When something like that happens, I usually go right to the drawing board and try to come up with something. On that day, I was just so in awe of what was going on. I decided I was going to wait to make a cartoon. So I waited till the next day to draw that, my cartoon. But that was mostly because it was a Saturday night and I just didn't have it in me to start drawing that minute. And I was like everybody else. I was just glued to what the heck was going on. I allowed myself to just be a civilian for that night.
What about you guys for the time that you take to put into whether it's a strip or a political editorial cartoon?
Well, if I go from start to finish on a single panel, adding, like I start out with a pencil drawing and then I ink over that and then paint and then a bit of detailing and colored pencil. So I can do an 8.5 by 11 in an hour to an hour and a half usually.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just
Kevin?
Well, because of the cartoons with the Telegram, I have a set deadline, right? So I don't send them in on, so I was blown away when I heard that as well on, that Saturday. And I believe it was a Saturday, wasn't it, Michael? I believe it was.
Yeah, it was a Saturday night.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have to comment on it. My first cartoon of the week is on a Tuesday. So that's kind of, you've already been in the paper then. And on Monday, I believe you were in the Telegram that day. So, so the process with me is it used to be, again, things change, but I used to have a local provincial and national or international. But I don't have that, and I never wanted to do Justin Trudeau 2 days in a row. But if Justin Trudeau is, in trouble 2 days in a row, for instance, then I'll draw him 2 days. And I don't have, it's all whatever my views were before changes. To actually draw a cartoon, come up with the idea is what takes me the time. The actual drawing will take me an hour. It could take me 2 hours if there's more detail. But it's the actual idea, and the idea could come up sperm of the moment, as Archie Bunker used to say, or it could, could take a while.
Do you ever put something out and be like afterwards or after it's out into the world or delivered, and you're like, that could have been a bit better?
Yeah.
What's the process then for that?
Accept it.
I can tell you the cartoon that you guys mentioned with Trump being old. I wish I had that back because I forgot to put the bandage on his ear.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
A
But
little
he has
detail like that.
he
I
has it
regret.
off now.
It doesn't matter. He's going to be wearing that for the next 3 years in cartoons.
Yes, I understand. Yes.
Well, it might not be that long, but right now cartoonists aren't going to stop drawing that bandage for at least a month.
Yeah,
Yes.
and why is it so important then to have that? Because, again, it's the cartoon. It's Trump. You've got the long tie hitting the ground there. He's kind of hunched over. There's a kid, and you only see the back quarter of him, type of his full back, and part of his face. Typical combed hairstyle. The kid on the bike. Wow, mister, you're really old. And it says the tables have turned. Right. So kid's wearing a helmet, training wheels. Why is it so important to have that bandage there for a cartoonist?
It just would have added a bit of hilarity.
Yes.
That bandage is funny.
It's oversized.
When you see that bandage, when you see that bandage, you know that cartoon is a brand new cartoon drawn, since the assassination. And I don't know. It just adds a level of hilarity that you always want to add to your cartoons.
Yes. The big bandage and small hands.
Yeah, small hands. Oh, Trump's easy. Messed up hair.
Yes.
Orange face, white around the eyes, tie that hits the ground, bad posture. There's so many things now. Now you add the bandage.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a gift for an editorial cartoonist to have someone like this in life.
Yeah, stuff like that is a gift.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So then, as watchers and commentators of this world that we are in, and this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show, right? And even more that's come out through the show for the way we're talking. You look at the political events of the day we're in right now. We've got climate change. We've got cost of living crisis. I can go on and on and on, right? And even just to look at Jasper, right? In the news overnight, there's so much that is happening in crisis or that can be commented on. Where are we in the world now, and how are you all feeling about it? Michael, we'll start with you, then I'll go to the two here in studio.
Well, I was more worried about what was going on in the U.S. than anything that's going on in Canada for the past year. It really did look like we are approaching another Trump presidency, and we still may. But after the shooting, it just became that much more stressful. The first thing out of my mouth when I heard Trump got shot, and I hadn't even seen a thing yet, I just knew that he had survived it, was Trump just won the election, and if you really pay attention to what Trump plans to do, this is a real it's a real pickle for him to get another term. The democracy is really at stake, and I'm talking worldwide. It really will. Another Trump presidency will have a real effect on us out here on the East Coast. But with the Democrats doing a bait and switch with Biden for Kamala over Biden, things seem a little bit hopeful. They're not quite there yet. Whether or not she can beat Trump is still a big question mark. But things aren't as dire and depressing as they have been, ever since Biden decided to step down.
What about you guys in studio? Snowden, your thoughts on, as a world observer or a local observer, where are we right now?
Well, we are in a similar situation, I think, to where we've kind of always been. The world has been teetering between, restriction of personal freedoms to expansion of personal freedoms. And there's always been people moving against that and people moving for it. But as I've aged, I don't panic as much, but I do have concern for, my children and my children's children. What kind of a world like the world I grew up in doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. The world I'm living in is what exists, but what's to come? Who can tell? You just kind of have to face it with, a dose of optimism and terror. To sum it up.
Oh yeah, I would agree. You're speaking like you sound like a grandfather. Are you?
I am.
All right. So I can appreciate that because I am a grandfather, and I'm seeing the world very similar. I'm shocked maybe and a bit nervous what's happening over there in the Ukraine, and of course with Russia. Like you think about it, the whole global thing. Like to me, if Trump wins it and comes back, I mean, what's gonna? It is. So, I mean, our job is to keep commenting. Obviously, Michael's job is to comment directly on the Trump and the Putin and all of that. But as a citizen and as an observer, not even who draws cartoons, I am nervous. But I'm, when I look at my granddaughter and that, I have to be hopeful. There's that word again. And you just have to try to make it a better place in your own little group,
Yeah.
and hopefully that can kind of like spiral out in a positive way, right? So yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say, like the British always says, if I'm being honest, so in my poor accent. So if I'm being honest, I am concerned.
Okay. As we're going to play it. There's 8 minutes left of the show. We're going to play a song now in couple of minutes. But so as we're kind of winding this thing down, I'm just curious, what work do you have any work you can talk about that's in the pipe for either this week or the future, Snowden? What about yourself? Is there anything you're working on?
I'm still working on completing Sculp and Tickle, which is the cartoon strip about growing up in Labrador West. And where I left off a couple of years ago was, when I left Labrador. Yeah. And I think I could do another whole series of what's happened since.
Cool.
But right now, actually, I'm focusing more on the music side of things. That's, a little segue there.
Yeah.
But,
all right.
But I'm always up for drawing something.
Yeah. Kevin, what about you?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. I'm working on my last.
Yeah.
I got to say my last because I've done 10 editorial cartoon books and it just is a lot of work to put in it and that. But the folks at Breakwater have been very helpful, and so this is my last one. It's 40 years, so I'm going through the process now of selecting them and just, kind of thinking about some copy for it, minimum copy. And I know Michael has done several books, so he's familiar with the process, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. And then this one is then it's to launch it and to promote it and all that stuff. So that's the big thing. Other than my regular editorial cartoons. And you mentioned earlier, I've done 3 children's books, so there's a potential children's book for next year. So
there you go.
Kept pretty busy.
Is your next Telegram cartoon ready?
So I draw my cartoons in the morning, early morning. So my cartoon's in today, of course, and I have 2 that I have to do tomorrow. So, but I have the ideas. So remember, I was saying that's sometimes the
hardest part.
Can you give us a hint on the idea?
Well,
I won't tell the Telegram you told me.
Okay, here's the hint on. Well, there's 2 there. I'll give you the hint on. I'll give you the hint on what the subject is. Right?
Okay.
So you got people's loved ones in freezers.
Okay, got it.
That's one.
Yeah.
And that's very sensitive. How do you handle that?
Very much so.
But it's in the news, and if it's in the news, it's fair game. And the second one is FFAW elected a new
Dwan.
yeah. And so, without telling you what the punchline is, so those are the two subjects that.
And Michael Dieter, can you talk about what you've got locked and loaded, ready to go, if there is something?
Well, as far as books goes, I'm working on a graphic novel.
Ooh, wow.
Very
first
cool.
graphic novel I ever did.
Congrats.
Well, I have to draw it. I'm at my 30th step on the Great Wall of China, so one step at a time. As far as editorial cartooning goes, in September I'll be going to be doing more work for a newspaper in Canada I can't quite mention yet.
Oh, good.
I look forward to that. And in the short term, the Olympics are coming up, so it's going to be a lot of Olympic. All three of us will be doing Olympic gags
For sure. Yeah.
for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks to the Olympics, but you're probably drawing them for 3 weeks.
You got me thinking about drones for some reason, Michael, but anyways.
Yeah, well, we'll be taking local politicians. They'll be swimming in swim meets. They'll be, pole vaulting. They'll be throwing. We'll tie the Olympics into everything.
Break dancing.
Yeah, everything. Thanks for this, guys.
right.
Much appreciated. Michael Dieter, Kevin Tobin, Snowden Walters, thank you very much. And folks, I'm going to just say the end of the show now. That's it for today. Tomorrow, it's a summer eats and drinks show. What's on your summer menu? For me lately, look, I grilled some mackerel last night, loads of grilled veggies, Korean BBQ, and more, where we've got some pretty interesting folks from the local community and the food scene coming in to talk. And I also want to hear from you tomorrow. But that's it. Snowden, you mentioned music. Talk about, briefly set up this song we're going to go out on today, if you could.
Okay, this song is the first release from my wife and I. Our duo is called Motion Sound, and the song's name is Edge of the World. It's recorded at Bond Street Studios, and the violin is a young lady named Madeline Carter.
Excellent. We will leave you with this tune today, folks, and thanks for listening. As always, it is much appreciated. Cheers.
It's a strange